This reared its ugly head in a hearing in Congress. An environmental lawyer named Raya Salter was talking to a GOP representative named Clay Higgins, and she demanded that Higgins repent. Repent. You're destroying the earth. Mother Gaia will bring all of her ire upon you unless you repent. Here we go.
Everything you have, your clothes, your glasses, the car you got her on, your phone, the table you're sitting at, the chair, the carpet under your feet, everything you've got is petrochemical products. What would you do with that?
Actually, I don't need that power, because what I would do is ask you, sir, from Louisiana.
I'm giving you the power. You're presenting.
To search you, sir, from Louisiana, to search your heart and understand why the EPA knows that toxic petrochemical facilities are some of the most toxic, polluting facilities in the world and are killing black people throughout Louisiana.
Okay,
so my first thing would to be you to search your heart and ask your God what you are doing to the black and poor people in Louisiana.
You should search your heart. Repent before your God. And pretty amazing stuff there. Okay, so the GOP representative's like, hold up. I'm just talking about like how many jobs are going to be lost, and I'm talking about the products that are created by the factories that you are attempting to shut down. And at one point he said to her, young lady, you might want to actually look at the consequences of what you're saying. This, of course, raised the specter of AOC. And so AOC arose in her position to explain that this woman had been cruelly set upon by this congressperson. She apologizes to the environmental lawyer on behalf of someone else, which always, by the way, is the best. I mean, this is the strongest move. You should try it, like in your own marriage. Apologize on behalf of your spouse to somebody else in front of that person. It goes amazing. It truly shows how sorry you are when you apologize on behalf of someone else. Like if I say right now, I apologize on behalf of Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez for for the fact that she is not a smart human being and she's unbelievably manipulative. And I apologize on behalf of the media because they're garbage at their jobs. So I apologize to you on their behalf. They're not I'm apologizing for them. Does that ring true to you? Here's AOC apologizing on behalf of the GOP congressperson for the treatment of this poor witness who is screaming at a congressperson, telling him to repent before his God.
In the 4 years that I've sat on this committee, I have never seen members of Congress, Republican or Democrat, disrespect a witness in the way that I have seen them disrespect you today. I would hope that someone would issue you an apology, but because I don't believe he will, I want to apologize to you about the conduct of this committee and what we just witnessed. The people do not deserve to see that.
No one deserves to see that, guys. No one deserves to see that. Well, if you conflict with the high priestess of the environmental movement, then you will be apologized on behalf of. That person will be forced to repent. This is definitely how we should make policy. The world's dumbest people making the world's dumbest policies that have consequences for hundreds of millions of people. Sounds great. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is back out there on the campaign trail. He's got a new spring in his step. He's wearing his aviators. He's in a good mood. And he's out there on the campaign trail. Apparently, his poll numbers have bounced a little bit. When I say that his poll numbers have bounced a little bit, what I mean is that his approval rating in the Real Clear Politics polling average is still 11 points underwater. He's still at like 42% approve and 53% disapprove. That's according to the latest New York Times Siena poll. With that said, that's better than it was. I mean, he was down in like the high 30s just not that long ago. But he's not doing amazing, right? Like when he was at its worst, he was down at like 36% approval rating, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now he's up to 42%. But he's got that. He's feeling it. He's feeling the momentum. And this means that he is now going to gaslight you. So after suggesting that we are in a battle for the soul of our nation, he's also going to suggest that he's saying we're all friends. We're all best friends. So here he is explaining that our differences don't turn us into sworn enemies. I mean, here's unifying Joe. And honestly, watching Joe Biden give these speeches these days, it's like those old cartoons where you'd have an angel on one corner, on one shoulder, and a devil on the other. And the angel's like, yes, the better angels of our nation. Oh, yes, we are all brothers. And the angel's like, no, we hate them. No, they're evil. MAGA. Every speech by Joe Biden is now completely bipolar. It's amazing. So here was Joe Biden yesterday speaking and saying, listen, our differences don't turn our fellow citizens into enemies.
Our differences certainly don't turn a fellow American into a sworn enemy, Building bridges across divides doesn't mean we're sacrificing our own beliefs and our core values. To be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, we have to recognize that we're not helpless in the face of hate and fuel violence. We're far more united than we're divided, but we have to focus on it.
Well, guys, we're so united. We're so united. Also, that guy, let's kick his ass. We're so united, but that guy right there, he's just... So here's Joe Biden saying we're still in a battle for the soul of the nation, which begs the question, with whom? That fellow citizen who you said was a friend 1 second ago? Yeah, that guy. Here we go.
We remain in the battle for the soul of our nation. When I look around at all of you here today,
nation, this schmuck.
I know we'll win that battle. I know we'll win it. The power is within each of us to transform the story of our time, to rise together against hate, to show who we are. We are the United States of America.
Transform the heal souls of the nation. I wish that guy would just take him out back and we'll beat the hell out of him. Maybe Hunter will get that gun from the dumpster and, go to town. It's just Joe Biden. Now, in the battle for the soul of the nation, Joe Biden would like control of all the means of distribution of news. I mean, that's obviously one of the contingencies here. The only way that you can win the soul of the nation is if you treat this like a war. And if you are in a battle and you treat it like a war, that means you have to take control of the sources of information. So here was Joe Biden saying something that is overtly anti the First Amendment. He says that he now wants to hold social media platforms accountable for spreading hate-fueled violence. Here is the problem with this. What he is basically saying is that if you have a platform, meaning Facebook, Twitter, any of those things, and somebody says something Joe Biden doesn't like, he wants the ability to shut that down. We know that already. Now, there's a difference between suggesting that these platforms should, for example, get rid of violent threats, which violate the First Amendment, and saying, quote unquote, spreading hate-fueled violence. Okay, because the reality is that nearly anything can be taken as impetus by bad people to do bad things. And Joe Biden knows that, which is why Joe Biden has consistently suggested that it's his opponents' rhetoric that caused violence, but he himself, none of his friends, they've never caused violence in any way. I mean, sure, we had the worst riots in American history just a couple of years ago, propped up by a media that spread the same messages being promoted by the rioters. But, rhetoric on the left never causes violence. It's only rhetoric on the right that causes violence. And we have to hold the social media platforms accountable, which is how they get stories like the Hunter Biden story shut down 1 month before an election. They just say, if these social media platforms don't do the things that we want them to do, then we are going to punish them. You have to understand the game that is being played right here. Now, they would never do this with your phone line, right? Your phone line is a platform. Your phone line, AT&T is not responsible. Pure Talk is not responsible for what you say on your phone to another human. That's not, but Joe Biden thinks that these platforms should be responsible for all of the things that you say. Again, because the goal here is to cudgel them into shutting down all the things he does not like. So here is Joe Biden basically using the power of the federal government in order to shut down free speech. That is what he is doing here.
Pass my budget, increase funding to protect nonprofits and houses of worship from hate-fueled violence, and hold social media platforms accountable for spreading hate and fuel violence. And I'm calling on Congress to get rid of special immunity for social media companies and impose much stronger transparency requirements on all of them.
Okay, if you think that is a sincere wish on his part, as opposed to a political manipulation, you would be wrong. The same thing is happening in California, where Governor Gavin Newsom has now signed a law requiring social media companies to consider children's health. According to the Wall Street Journal, social media companies that operate in California will now have to consider the health and well-being of children under a first-of-its-kind bill signed into law Thursday by Governor Gavin Newsom. By the way, when he says they have to consider the health and well-being of children, understand he doesn't mean that. This is a state that actively believes that 5-year-olds should be taught that they can be a member of the opposite sex, that kids should be given puberty blockers before they hit puberty, and that kids who are minors should be transitioned via sterilization surgeries. So don't lecture me in California about the protection of children. This is not a state that seeks to actually protect children. The battle for the culture is heating up. We here at the Daily Wire are making some big moves. So be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell, because you're not going to want to miss a single moment.